A blessed day to everyone. Your presenter is Emma Bahian, a PhD student taking the subject Financial Management and Control for the semester. I am representing our group. The title of our study is Transparency Practices of School Heads, a research study on financial management. The education is one of the most important sectors in any country as it plays a vital role in the development of human capital. Financial management is a critical aspect of the education sector as it involves the allocation of resources to achieve the desired outcomes. This study aimed to examine the state of transparency practices among school heads in the education sector, the factors that influence the implementation of transparency practices, and the strategies that can be suggested to improve transparency practices on financial management in schools, as it is necessary in effective leadership in the part of school heads, since transparency plays a crucial role in building trust. The study found that financial transparency can help to build trust among stakeholders and improve the quality of education in the Philippines. Hence, this study desired to investigate the practices of school heads, particularly in the division of Bukidnon, for the school year 2023-2024 on transparency and accountability and utilizing government funds. However, there is still a lack of research on the transparency practices of school heads in financial management. The study also identified the need of school heads to financial management skills. The research identified the current practices, challenges, and factors that influence the implementation of transparency practices in financial management by school heads. It also examined the strategies suggested to improve transparency practices in schools. The findings of the study hope to contribute to the knowledge based on the transparency practices in the education sector and provide recommendations for practice. In order to come up to the desired outcome, this aimed to investigate the transparency practices of school heads in the division of Bukidnon. More specifically, this study sought to determine the answer of the following questions. Number 1. What is the state of transparency practices among school heads in the education sector? Number 2. What factors influence the implementation of transparency practices by school heads? And number 3. What strategies can be suggested to improve transparency practices in financial management in schools? As for the tools to highlight the result of this research, this study employed descriptive method of research. It sought to gather quantifiable information about the state of transparency practices among school heads. Factors influence the implementation of transparency practices by school heads and strategies that can be suggested to improve transparency practices on financial management in schools. The respondents of the study employed selected elementary school heads who were currently assigned in different schools in the division of Bukidnon. The study used simple random sampling where, out of 21 school heads, only 11 school heads participated and cooperated in the study. This study utilized a structured questionnaire as the instrument to gather the desired data from the respondents. Based on the results, as reflected on the study, it was then interpreted valid and reliable. A 4-point Likert scale was adopted and the following range was used for interpretation. As for the data, you can see in the table 1 that Likert scale interpretation for perceptions of teachers on the effectiveness of the first quarter assessment is being used. We have the point score, the descriptive rating, and the interpretation. For the point score 4, descriptive rating is strongly agree and the interpretation is highly effective. For the point score 3, descriptive rating is agree and the interpretation is effective. For the point score 2, descriptive rating is disagree and the interpretation is ineffective. And for the point score 1, descriptive rating is strongly disagree and the interpretation is highly ineffective. The following are the results of the study. We have the mean, range, and the interpretation. For the 1.00 to 1.74, the interpretation is not relevant. For the 1.75 to 2.49, the interpretation is somewhat relevant. And for the 2.50 to 3.24, the interpretation is quite relevant. And for the 3.25 to 4, the interpretation is highly relevant. Table 1 offers a complete perspective on transparency practices among school administrators in the education sector, utilizing findings from multiple dimensions of transparency. The data reveals that most school administrators demonstrate a solid dedication to transparency by freely disclosing their institution's financial data to stakeholders, including parents, educators, and children, or the students. As a result, Table 1 has the overall weighted mean of 3.25, which means highly relevant. Table 2 provides an in-depth correlation study of the elements that impact school administrators' adoption of transparency policies in the education industry. The Pearson correlation coefficients provide valuable information on the magnitude and direction of these relationships, offering insights into the factors that substantially impact encouraging transparency and educational leadership. A notable discovery in the significant positive association observed between transparency in financial sharing and confidence in financial management. This suggests that school administrators who are open and honest in communicating economic information to stakeholders are more likely to have greater assurance in their capacity to handle the school's finances efficiently. The findings indicate that encouraging transparency in financial sharing and involving stakeholders can positively impact school heads' confidence in financial management and participation in collaborative budgeting. Administrators and policymakers must consider these correlations when creating training programs and regulations to improve openness among school administrators. As for the conclusion, Table 1 shows that transparency techniques are widely adopted among school administrators in the education sector. Their dedication to releasing financial information, involving stakeholders, and raising their understanding of governance principles reflects a positive trend toward accountability and trust in educational institutions. The correlations shown in Table 2 provide helpful information about the factors impacting transparency practices among school administrators. Financial transparency is connected with increased confidence in financial management, whereas stakeholders' involvement is associated with collaborative budgeting practices. Therefore, the findings provide some crucial recommendations for improving transparency practices among school administrators in the education sector. First and foremost, educational authorities should prioritize training and resources for school leaders. This training should help them improve their financial transparency skills. The second, school administrators must have better grasp governance standards like the Philippine Seal of Good Governance or the PSGG. By providing administrators with the required knowledge and tools, they will be better prepared to execute transparency practices on financial management. That is all for the title of our research study entitled Transparency Practices of School Heads, a research study on financial management. Thank you.